What would you do in the first 90 days of being on Substack to set it up for a 100K year?
There are amazing newsletter writers out there, right? But we should be thinking like founders, not like creators.
For someone looking to monetize their Substack, how would you recommend them navigating what monetization strategy to choose first?
I would turn on paid subscribers straight away. There's no magic number on what you can charge. Only you can know that, but just put a price on it so you get like the first bit of traction. So that's the first monetization. Turn on paid subscribers straight away. The second is...
For today's episode, I am joined by Ollie Forsyth, who is the creator of New Economies, a very popular Substack newsletter with over 75,000 subscribers. And today we will be talking all about how to make your first $100,000 on Substack. Ollie, great to have you here today on the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much. It's been a long time coming, and I'm glad we're finally here and we get to meet each other.
So over the past year, you've generated more than $100,000 in revenue with your Substack. But what are the main ways that you've monetized your Substack newsletter?
Yeah, so maybe to give some context for the audience. So I spent my career working in venture capital, and I guess still do a little bit. So the idea of the newsletter was, why isn't there like a technology newsletter which completely focuses on this is the next big trend in tech? And when I started thinking about leaving my last company, I was like, it was just like that eureka moment. Like, this is it. Like, there has to be like a media source or a media company for the latest trends in tech. And I was like, okay, let's just launch it and see what happens. So we actually started monetizing pretty quickly. I think we turned on paid subscribers like pretty much from day one, which I recommend to all Substackers or kind of newsletter writers. And then maybe it was 3 or 4 months in when we started getting like sponsors and people started wanting to collaborate with us. And then initially it was, okay, we will partner with anyone because you're a startup, and if someone's offering you money, then you're going to take it. But now we're pretty strict on like who we want to partner with. So that's how we started monetizing, like paid subscribers, partners, and sponsors.
So what's a bit of the ratio in terms of revenue between paid subscriptions and sponsorships?
Yeah, I would say it's probably 50-50 right now, give or take. So there are two sides. The sponsors and the partners are pretty good because there's capital upfront and there's a lot more capital than kind of the paid subscribers, right? But then on the paid subscribers, there's guaranteed revenue, or at least recurring revenue, subscription revenue. So there's hopefully a high likely chance they're going to subscribe the next year. But now, the focus is, just growing both of them at the same time. And we have a couple of like new products we're looking to launch, which will drive the revenue as well.
So let's first talk about the paid subscription, right? You have a very successful paid tier to your Substack. What do you think makes specifically your paid tier such a success? And then in general, what makes a paid Substack tier irresistible?
It's a good question. The way I think about creating a paid subscription is, what can you get where you can't get it anywhere else? What can you own that hopefully you cannot get elsewhere? And that's how we think about like the paid subscriptions. So right now, as a paid subscriber, you can do the usual like join our community, but you're getting exclusive insights into the next big trend in tech. And typically what we do is most of our content is completely free. So you can read all of our content, but if you want access to the actual data of all of the content which we write, which, most of that data we've collected ourselves, and that takes a lot of time, then you have to pay and you become a paid subscriber for that. So yeah, from the paid subscribers, I think it took us 121 days or something along those lines to reach our first 100 paid subscribers. And then the idea is hopefully you just keep getting your next 100 and next hundreds after that quicker and faster. And you can start increasing the prices and so on. So that's basically what we did. Now we're looking to see, okay, how can we launch a paid subscription, which is much more effective and it's almost like a no-brainer for anyone to subscribe to.
So it sounds almost like that most of your content let's say, your information, that's for free. But then if you really want something like completely else, a different type of, in your case, like data, right? That's when you have to join the paid tier. And in
Yep.
that way, it sounds like you don't just run like a paid newsletter in that sense, but it's almost like a subscription product in and of itself, right? Like a membership product of itself.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I think the easiest way to think about this is a straightforward subscription, right? To new economies, and yeah, like it's going pretty well. Like, there, of course, like all of us, we've got challenges and so on, but we've been super surprised on just like how quickly we've grown and how we've managed to diversify our revenue, which I think is important for newsletter writers.
It reminds me a lot of how we at Right Build Scale treat our paid Substack as well, where it's like most of our content is actually for free, and it's like basically like an ordinary newsletter, right? But then the paid content, it's a different type, different format of content. So it's usually, let's say, mini workshops, or it's an ultimate guide, or it's actually ChatGPT prompts, or it's a downloadable of some sort, like some sort of workbook. So I think in that sense, also from a subscriber's perspective, it's really difficult if you're like, okay, so I'm already getting free value from you. And if I now pay you, I'm getting like more of the same. Like that's not really a clear value proposition. But if it's like, oh, the free stuff, it's your ordinary newsletter, I'm already loving it. But the paid tier, it's like completely different types of content I'm getting access to. I think that makes it easier to sell as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're always trialing different things. But I think what's great now is anyone can now be a creator or anyone can now be a, you know, a newsletter writer. I just think anyone who's looking to launch like a paid subscription, is almost like just what can you own that nobody else can do or replicate.
How about promoting your paid tier? How do you approach that with new economies?
Yeah. So what we do in each newsletter edition is we have maybe 2 to 4 call to actions on become a paid subscriber now and you get access to this. Or at the top of each newsletter, we say, okay, for free subscribers, you get this. By becoming a paid subscriber, you get access to this. And I think just making it super clear, 100% transparent, which is super important to us, and third, just really easy to sign up to. That's like the simplest approach we do. That's our main distribution right now and getting new paid subscribers. And you know, some days you will have like a whole flurry of new subscribers, which is always super nice. But most of the time, we just, you know, publish and promote for our content.
So basically, every newsletter you send out, at the top or at the bottom, there's a call to action to the paid tier.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we normally include at least 3 of them. So one at the top, this is again like what you get as a free subscriber and what you get as a paid subscriber. Our content is normally like quite in depth. So if that's the case, we'll have like one also like halfway through the middle. And then at the end, you can include a paywall option. So to get access to the data, click this and then have the paid wall. And then underneath, if you become a paid subscriber, you can access the data immediately.
Do you also do like any big promos from time to time?
Not really. In terms of like promotion, in terms of like discounts, you mean? Or
For
yeah,
example, yeah.
yeah, yeah, we do those. That works quite well. And I think those are good to at least get your like first few hundred subscribers. And then after that is figuring out, okay, how do you best position it? How do you price the newsletter? And also like just again, what can you own in this space that nobody else can do?
Let's talk a little bit about pricing actually. How did you guys decided on pricing your paid tier?
So the way I thought about it is, okay, for $200 a year, this is what you get access to. And if you subscribe to a similar like data platform, you're paying $15,000 a year. So we're like, okay, I'm pretty sure like a couple $100, that's okay. People can do monthly. We have another subscription, which is slightly more, but on the whole, you know, we think that's pretty valuable. And for us, it's like, we don't want to milk every single opportunity and make as much money as we can from these people. That's just not us. We want to be 100% transparent. This is the value you get. We hope it's super valuable. And if we can make any improvements, then fantastic. And I think that's just like the best approach. And I think it's really a fair way to do it.
Yeah, and I think also with pricing, at least what we decided to do, is really make the annual tier far more attractive than the monthly tier,
For
because
sure.
I do see on Substack that there's a lot of people also, trying out your paid tier for 1 or 2 months, then leaving, then joining again, and it's a bit of a hassle. Rather than just locking
For
them
sure.
in for an entire year, where for an entire year they get your exclusive content. And also, I think like if you have other monetization options on top of your paid tier, it makes sense to lock people in that annual plan, right?
Totally. Yeah, it's a good point actually. So again, full transparency, our annual plan is much more attractive than the monthly plan, and for good reason. Like if churn is high on some months with the monthly plan, then it's just annoying, right? You want to get as many paid subscribers as you can on the annual plan. So I think we say something along the lines of, if you become a paid subscriber, based on like the annual plan, you can also gift a subscription to a friend of your choice. So it doesn't cost us anything. It's a free gift for you. You can do what you like, and that works quite well. Yeah, I'm a big fan also of just keeping it really simple. Just do annual plans. It's not that much money anyway, and hopefully it works.
What's one common mistake you see a lot of Substack creators make when they just like think about creating their paid tier?
I think they overcomplicate it in terms of they offer too much. I think like one thing we've learned is you have to know like what you're worth or what the newsletter is worth. If you start creating all of these offers, you get all of these different perks, it becomes like almost too confusing for also the readers. So I think just keeping the offering really simple, but also your subscribers will also have different options on who they wish to subscribe to and become a paid subscriber to. So I think it goes back to my point earlier around if all the offerings are basically the same, it's quite hard for you to stand out. So how can you as a newsletter writer stand out by, again, owning that one thing that nobody else can do? I think that's really important and not enough people think about it.
Yeah, let's dive a little bit more into that. Like, how can someone make sure that their Substack publication really stands out, and in particular, their paid tier stands out? Because, like you said, that's key in
Yeah.
driving more paid subscribers. If everything is the same, a similar offer than other paid Substacks, it's going to be really difficult for someone to choose, right?
For
So you
sure.
need to stand out.
For sure. Okay, so let's say like your newsletter, for example, what I would be doing, there are similar newsletters like you guys already out there, right? So right now for your paid subscribers, what do they get in return?
For us,
Yeah.
they get access to a live workshop once a month, and they get access to a library of, I would say by now it's like dozens of hours of video workshops, for example, mini courses.
Nice. Okay, like one thing I would do also is create the largest Substack community of fellow newsletter writers. We're all in the same boat. We all want to meet new people, and for an additional whatever it is, $50, $100 a year, you can access this amazing community. And if you can own that, and it's the biggest Substack community or the most impactful, people are going to subscribe to that. And again, I think it's like just creating things like that. Like we're looking to launch one thing, which I can't talk about yet, but if we can do it, I think that would be like so impactful for so many people, especially like founders. Um, and I think it's just thinking outside the box. Like there are so many newsletters, there are amazing newsletter writers out there, right? Um, but we should be thinking like founders, not like creators. If you think like a founder and you want to build the best possible product, however you describe it, I just think more people should be thinking like founders.
I think that's really interesting, thinking more like founders than creators.
Yeah.
I see this a lot because in the creator economy, it's super easy to get started, right? You just create your Substack account and you start writing about whatever you want. You're creating. But that does not necessarily mean you're going to monetize, right? That requires more thinking like a business owner, thinking like a founder. It requires thinking, hey, what would actually sell and where does the money come from? And I think that's really important that, yes, it's easy to get started as a creator, but if you want to monetize it, it's not just, okay, what do I find cool to create? What do I find interesting to write about? What am I passionate about? Right? It's really the I perspective. No, it's like, what do other people want? What does my audience really struggle with? What's a pain point? What keeps them up at night? What can I create that's unique that will help them solve some of their problems. And now you're thinking way more like a business. And I can imagine, Ollie, you with your background, you've probably approached Substack from day one with a founder's perspective, right?
I think so. We're like, we have three principles. One is, how do we build the best possible product? We become the go-to newsletter for all the latest trends in tech. We're here to make a business at the end of the day. But if we can make those things work, there's a whole flywheel effect, right? People will start recommending us to their friends. A proportion of those people will become paid subscribers. If you build an amazing brand, then sponsors and partners want to work with you. And then at the end of the day, like, we're here to build the biggest, media company which focuses on the latest trends in tech. If you can build that and you can build that narrative, then the sky's the limit. You can do all kinds of things with that in the future.
So let's talk a little bit about newsletter sponsorships. How do you land new sponsorships for your newsletter?
Yeah. So the first couple came to us. And like I said, full transparency, they were amazing people, but look, like, would we partner with them again now? Probably not. It's just, they're cool companies, but we just don't want to promote them, right? But now it's like, I would say 50-50. So half the companies come to us and half the companies we reach out to them. So let's start with people who are looking for news, for sponsors. There are a couple of tactics which we've used. One, how do you get to sponsors without going to them directly saying, hey, give me money? So one of the things we do is like our, kind of like acquisition channel is we do these big market maps. So we'll do like a whole big deep dive on, let's say, the AI startup landscape for marketing tools. So we'll map out all the tools in the space. The piece might get 50, 100, quarter of a million reads and all the startups on that space. And then what we do is we make a big effort to get to know every single one of those companies, the founders, the heads of marketing, the heads of go-to-market. And we just say very informally, hey, we have a pretty big media channel. I think we can collaborate in some way, informally or formally. We're totally transparent. Like, we would love to work with you in some way. And I think if you can like give them value before going to them and asking them for something in return is a much better way to build, good relationships. And then I would say the companies which come to us, on the whole, most of them are pretty good and we would like to work with them. And then some which just don't, it doesn't feel right. And then how do we price? So we price on a bundle-based package. We do like 4 newsletter editions. Our prices have relatively actually stayed the same. But we do 4 newsletter editions, and as a hack, like, if they buy today, you can always say like, we'll give you 5 newsletter editions at the same price. And from like the whole setup, it's very simple. We just create a Notion doc. We say like, these are all the things we need from you, like the graphics, the contents, and so on. And we share all the stats. So again, we're super transparent.
I think this is a really interesting way to monetize your newsletter, something that, as at Right Build Skill, we have not really looked into that often. We've mostly monetized with like digital products or coaching consulting offers. But I think the cool thing about sponsorships is that it also just allows you to create content, have the sponsorship in the content, and that's it, right? Because you cannot continue to make an ask in every single newsletter. You cannot sell a product or a coaching offer in every single newsletter. I think your audience will get tired of that, right? You'll have that fatigue in that sense. So this could be a really good way to also diversify your income streams, right? Maybe you already have digital products, maybe you already offer coaching or a paid tier. This could be another thing, another way to monetize your newsletter. And I really like how you're approaching those companies first, without asking them anything. You're more building that connection first instead of directly pitching, hey, here's a newsletter slot, this is what it costs. You're first building those connections. What would you recommend that someone who has a relatively small audience do in terms of newsletter sponsorships? Would you even recommend that they do it? And if so, what's the process like?
Yeah. So I think only the creators can decide if they are at the appropriate stage to go and look for sponsors. And the way I see this, there are two sides. One, you can have a super small newsletter. Let's say it's 10,000 people, but it's very niche. It's like AI engineers for marketing who are based out of France, for example. But that's like a hyper niche newsletter, but it's super impactful because you probably got massive distribution for that like niche audience, and you're probably like incredibly well respected. But then you have the flip side where it's like a mass newsletter. There's not much of a concentration. Maybe you don't quite know who your audience are. And that's a bit more scatty. So I think even if you are relatively small, I don't think there's any harm in trying to find sponsors. How do you go around it? Well, again, it's like, what can you build for them? Building that relationship first before you go and basically approach them to ask to partner with them. Or, if you can figure out a way on how you can do that, maybe you invite them to your like podcast show, you feature them in one of your newsletter editions. As soon as you feature them in like one of your newsletter editions about talking about the product, for example, just send a note to the founder and head of marketing of that company. Just say, hey, look, massive fan of your company, X company. We just featured you in our newsletter. We'd love to collaborate. I think that's like the easiest approach. And then we're big fans of a company called Passion Fruit, who I've known for a long time, and they are essentially a sponsorship marketplace. We get a couple of really good deals from them. So anyone who's listening, I definitely recommend signing up. That's a really cool platform as well. And I think apart from that, it's pretty it's straightforward, but then it's hard work.
What you said earlier about like first mentioning the product or the company, maybe in your newsletter, and then reaching out reminds me of a story of one of our clients. And his newsletter was in the mental health space. It's pretty difficult to monetize mental health with digital products or coaching because you likely have to be a licensed therapist. What he did, he mentioned like a few online therapy sites, like BetterHelp, for example. And he was just like, I really like what they do. Some of my friends have used it. And he was just linking to the product. He was not like overly selling it. He truly like believed in BetterHelp and find them valuable. But then he sent them a message like, hey, I just shouted you guys out in my newsletter. That's what I really love what you do. That's it. And then they actually landed a sponsorship slot because of that message. Because they were like, oh, you're already like mentioning us and we love what you do as well. What if we take this to the next level and we have some sort of partnership out of this? So rather than looking at like the transactional lens, you can already look at what products or services am I already using in relation to my newsletter niche, and that like use that as a starting point to get more sponsorships.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. I think there's also like I always find like how do you find these sponsors? That was always like a massive pain point for us. And I think a really simple way to actually begin is go to your favorite newsletter writers who are in your space. You can go through all their content and just look to see who sponsored them in the past. That's a really easy way just to like figure out who is sponsoring creators right now. And at least you get a sense of the types of companies who are looking to partner with creators. And then what you should do, just literally send a LinkedIn message to the head of marketing at that company and the founder. Just say, look, I saw you were looking to sponsor creators. We'd love to chat. We just like to build, this is just for us, but we like to build, those relationships before we reach out, or there's any like conversation around, sponsoring.
Yeah. Yeah. In the same way, I think like using YouTube or a podcast as a research for this, because in many cases, these companies, they do newsletter sponsorships, podcast sponsorships, and YouTube as well. So you see that a lot of YouTubers, right, they're sponsored by the same type of companies over and over again. So that is a clear signal. Okay, this company is partnering up with creators. Use that to reach out.
Great idea.
Ollie, let's make a little bit of a growth plan here. Let's say someone is starting out on Substack. They're excited and they're really looking to monetize this and take it seriously. What would you do in the first 90 days of being on Substack to set it up for 100K a year? Now, I'm not saying make 100K in 90 days, right? But setting it up for 100K a year.
Okay. So I would think about, first thing, which category are you going to focus on? And again, what is your newsletter going to be focused on, and how do you own that space? If you cannot own that space, honestly, I actually wouldn't start it. So you have to be able to own that space, because that will create like a huge amount of value long term. So that's the first thing, like brand positioning, have a really good name that everybody can remember. Like almost think, I know it's like quite hard when you're just starting out, but in the next 1 or 2 years, can you see this becoming like a really well-known brand that you're going to love and talk about? So that's kind of like the first thing. The second, I would build relationships with 10 to 50 like fellow Substackers who are all at different stages, and get all of them to recommend you. Like that's been a really impactful way for us to grow as well. So as soon as you hit the ground running, like in the second week, if you have 10, 20, 30 Substackers recommending you, fantastic. The third thing I would be doing is joining some form of like Substack community. There are a couple of like free ones out there. We actually run a free one, which anyone can join like within reason. But there are also some slightly more targeted and concentrated ones, right? So I would definitely recommend like joining one of those. If it's free or paid, recommend joining one, as it's good like value short and long term. And then just start publishing. Like if I look at our first pieces now, when we first publish, I'm like, why do we publish this? Like it's so bad. But you don't know then, right?
Yeah.
And then you like just start to iterate. Like the visuals are bad. Just it's okay. Like it's a good piece of content, but it doesn't look amazing. And now we have a really, hopefully we have a good and up and coming brand. Our brand visuals are like passion fruit orange. So as soon as you see any visuals like throughout Substack and it has a passion fruit orange, hopefully you can resonate this with us. Turn on paid subscribers like straight away, as you don't know who's willing to support you. And just find a way on how you can get your first 100 paid subscribers as quickly as possible.
So you mentioned recommendations. That's been an important growth feature for you. And I really want to emphasize this because I see that a lot of Substack creators, they really take the solo approach. They post notes, they post their long form, but they never really connect with other creators on the platform. And then it's like kicking to a rock and that won't move. You're really putting in time and effort, maybe creating high quality content, but if you don't have that network of other creators recommending you or engaging with your work, it's really going to be difficult to escape that like creating in the void space. So I really want to emphasize this, that it's an important growth features. We see it for our
Exactly.
publication as well. Like 45% of total subscribers are from recommendations. So that's a massive growth engine. How do you
That's amazing.
approach other creators to have this newsletter recommendation exchange?
Yeah. So when we first started out, we anyone who seemed appealing, who weren't too big, but we knew we had had a pretty good like inkling that okay, hopefully they'll say yes, then we would reach out to them. But then as like time progressed, I'm like, what more can we give to these people apart from just giving a recommendation? So probably 6 months ago, we started a Substack community, and this was mostly newsletter writers in tech who are still either just starting. Some of them are bestsellers. Doesn't really matter like what stage you're at, but if we wanted to recommend them, we would also say, look, we've also got one of the biggest Substack, if not like the biggest Substack community made up of fellow writers. We would absolutely love to help you. We would love to collaborate with you. Just come and join us. And then you can say, okay, should we recommend you? So again, like it goes back to my point around offering something before like you actually take something. I just think it's a really simple approach and a really good way to build amazing relationships. And now, yeah, I actually don't know the exact number, but we've got someone like the best Substackers recommending us.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think I saw like a screenshot in one of your latest articles that said like over 33,000 subscribers through recommendations. Is that correct?
Probably something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And that,
Yeah.
that really shows the power of collaboration. And
Yeah.
again, starting with that, not starting with like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to someone and get this newsletter recommendation, which is a very selfish way to look at it. But first just build some rapport with someone, maybe give them value first, right? And really build a relationship and make sure it's like genuine, that you genuinely enjoy what they do, what they write about. I think this is so important. And this, you
For
can
sure.
even start doing this by engaging with other people's notes, right? Just leaving a like, leaving a thoughtful comment, leaving a restack. Now you're helping them already in a very easy way. It takes maybe a minute or two max. Um, but if you do that for a few days, they will know who you are, right? And if you then reach out saying, I really love what you do with your newsletter, maybe there's I think we have audience overlap. Would you be willing to do a newsletter recommendation swap? Like 9 out of 10 creators will say yes, especially when you've built that report
Yeah,
first.
exactly. I think that's a really good way of looking at it. And, follow them on Twitter, follow them on LinkedIn. You can even just drop them a message just to say, hey, loved your content. Keep up the great work. We'd love to collaborate at some stage. And not everyone's going to respond to you. Totally okay. But like now with our Substack community, for example, I think we have 70, 75 like fellow Substackers in there. We're all sharing each other's content. A lot of us are like recommending each other already. So again, like if you're listening to this and you just want to like join the community, go and find one. I just think it helps so much. And being a creator is hard. And, you mentioned the 30K like subscribers, which we gain from recommendations. Like, we're working 18, 19 hours a day, like 7 days a week. Like we have a very cool mission. We want to be the biggest technology newsletter for the latest trends in tech. And I just think for anyone starting, like you should just have that North Star and just keep going until you make it.
That's actually a great point, because it's like, yes, recommendations very effective, but you're not magically going to get 33,000 subscribers, right? It means you have to first build a publication that's worth recommending, especially by some of the biggest accounts out there, like you have done. Um, which means, okay, first, like if your branding isn't on point, if your content isn't on point, if you lack those fundamentals, you can ask for recommendations all you want, but it's not going to be as effective, right? So first get the foundation right and do the recommendations at the same time. Now, recommendations aside, what are some of your other most effective growth strategies for your Substack?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So I mentioned these like big market maps we do. Those do really well. And again, it's thinking like a founder, but also thinking, how do I make my every single piece of mine go viral? Like that's how we think about it. Would we be happy if this newsletter edition was shown on the biggest front page newspaper in the world, for example? Um, those normally do really well. We do a big annual creator economy report and AI report. Those do super well. And for us, actually, a lot of it is luck. We did the first generative AI market map literally 2 days after ChatGPT came out. This thing had like 250,000 reads in a week. If you go to my LinkedIn, is the most popular one, which has been shared. It had like 1 million impressions on LinkedIn or something.
Wow.
That got us a lot of subscribers. So if you can just be like quick to react on like big trends happening or whichever like niche you're focusing on, then that's how you can also get paid subscribers and like, free subscribers. And at the end of the day, like I think it's quite basic. If you write really good content, people want to support you, they're going to subscribe. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It takes time though. It takes time. And I get it. It's a lot of work. Yeah. You'll probably know this as well. It's like you thought you have a really good piece of content and then, and you got like a few subscribers, that's just how it works. But I think also it's important to think about long term. How do you future proof your newsletter or media company, however you decide to frame it? Like for us, one of the things I think about is, are people going to read newsletters in the next 1 to 2 years? Or is it just going to be AI summaries? Well, I have a I have a small hunch like not everyone's going to read newsletters anymore, right? In the future, but maybe they want video content. So like, let's launch video content now. We've got the distribution, so let's just do it. And I think like you should always just be thinking ahead. If you can think ahead and you can be one step kind of ahead of the curve, then you'll be okay.
That's also, I think, why Substack really promoted their podcasting feature, and I think they do a great job at the podcasting feature. Would you say that looking ahead, right, especially with the changes in AI, that's really why you started the podcast, which is both audio and in video on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, are like thinking about like, yeah, are people going to read newsletters in the future? Or is it just going to be kind of all these AI summaries? And honestly, we don't know yet. But even if people do continue to read newsletters in the future, it's a good gamble because we can also build a huge new kind of audience on video. In the meantime, better relationships like with our fans. We get to speak to like the most amazing entrepreneurs who've been there and made it. And again, like you can utilize that kind of network at some point in the future.
Yeah, it's been one of the main reasons why we started a podcast as well, and we focused more on YouTube as well, because it's like I do still believe that in the next 2 years, people will continue to read newsletters, but with so much AI generated content, if you only do writing and you never show your face, you are never on camera and you're never speaking, I think it's going to be difficult to really stand out in this ocean of AI generated content because it will like only get better. People will get better
Mm.
at creating content with AI and AI gets better, right? So it's going to be very hard to you can have completely fictional characters, I think, creating newsletters, writing newsletters, but it's all done by
Mm.
AI. So having that component of, okay, we're now, on camera, on audio for 40 minutes, 50 minutes, where you can show more personality, you can be more nuanced, people can have this different connection with you as a creator than just a written word, I think is going to be more and more important over the next few months already.
I agree. And I think like for anyone starting it, if you're interested, like just launch, like you should just be launching whatever you need to do, right? Like don't wait for people to say no, yes, no, yes. Like only you know, right? Um, like just launch your newsletter, launch your podcast show, whatever like you're thinking of creating. I think people should just do it, and there's nothing to lose. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like we've had a bunch of things that we thought would work, but just didn't work. And just trial and error. But I think like the biggest opportunity for us to create for us creators kind of short and long term is distribution. If you can have a massive distribution channel, that's going to lead to all different kinds of things.
So for someone looking to monetize their Substack, how would you recommend them navigating what monetization strategy to choose or choose first?
Yeah, I would turn on paid subscribers straight away. You can there's no magic number on what you can charge. Only you can know that, but just put a price on it. Discounted it initially so you get like the first bit of traction, and then at some point you will get paid subscribers as long as like it's not crazy expensive and the offering is not just bad. You will get paid subscribers. So that's the first monetization. Turn on paid subscribers straight away. The second is start, scouting out, okay, who could be a potential partner for us in terms of sponsors. And then once you have like a rough idea, maybe who your first 5 or 10 sponsors are, again, back to my point here, think about a way on how you can engage with those people. First by delivering value and then provide something in them in return. I think that's a really good way on at least starting to get to know like who these people might be. And then just like think like a founder. Like if you are building the largest tech newsletter for French AI, developers as an example, what do these people want? They're always going to be looking for new jobs. Similar to what you're doing, right? You're helping writers build and, build, big companies. I'd be thinking about, okay, how do I build the largest newsletter? How do I build the largest community for newsletter writers? How do I help these newsletter writers expand internationally? So right now we're only writing in our native languages, right? So English, but I can imagine like New Economies probably has a huge audience like in China, India, and so on. But right now we don't have those features available, right? So how do you start educating those people to go outside? And I just think like there are so many opportunities like us newsletter writers can create outside those sponsors and paid subscribers. That's what I would be thinking about.
Yeah, well, one of those methods that I would really add to this is, especially in the beginning, have some sort of high ticket offer, like a consulting offer or coaching offer ready, especially with let's say your most active and engaged subscribers, whether free or paid, like get into conversations with them. You don't have to even come up with the offer yourself, but first get into conversations with your most active subscribers, see what they want, see what they need, see what their pain points are, and then see if you can help them solve it in exchange for, as a high ticket offer. It doesn't, you don't have to spend weeks or months creating something upfront. You could set this up in 2 hours, right? Set up a Stripe link basically, but really dive into conversations with your audience. So you pinpoint exactly this is what's going on in their head, this is what they need, this is what their goals are. Not only will that help you in getting a high ticket coaching or consulting client, but it will also help you make better content because now you know exactly what your audience is looking for. So I would really add that on top of like paid subscriptions and newsletter sponsorships. I think this is one of the fastest ways to get started as well.
I think it's a good idea. The only thing I would say is if you start having hundreds of paid subscribers, which hopefully is going to happen to everyone at some point, that consulting call, you're not going to want to have that then. How do you replace the consulting call without you needing to be in the conversation, right? You can't scale that. We talk about that a little bit. It's almost like these service-based types of companies. How do you remove yourself away by still adding a high-value ticket item? Maybe it's like a pre-recorded like course, for example, where you don't need to be present. It's already recorded, and for a few $100s, you can get it. But I think for the first 10, 20 paid subscribers, or even for the first 100, you should just add in offer as much as you can within reason, and adjust your pricing if people just aren't buying it.
Yeah, but that's actually a great point, right? The moment you see that people are looking for the same solution, that's the moment you should no longer just offer that one-on-one, which is not scalable, but turn it into like an asset, right, that can sell on autopilot, like a course or workshop. I think that's really important. And you know that there's actually demand for it, and now you can turn it into something that's highly scalable. That's really where the real power of an internet business is.
Exactly. I think another really good way to grow, monetize, and like look for new opportunities is actually to partner with other creators. If you can partner with other creators who are maybe at the same kind of scale as you already, they also want to grow. So if you can bundle subscriptions together, or if there are like cool collaboration opportunities you could do, then I think it's amazing. One thing we haven't touched upon is like guest posts. Like guest posts are quite good for like the early days, but it's more of a one-off thing, right? Or maybe you're going to do it twice. You're not going to be appearing on like someone else's newsletter like every month, I doubt. So I think just also managing that. But if you can get a couple of those in the early days, that's also helps just like grow the brand and grow your brand presence. And the third thing I would mention is around you should be deciding if you want to build a newsletter as a personal brand or as a business. If you want to build a brand, if you want to build a newsletter as a personal brand, your name should be like there, this is this newsletter hosted by this person. But I think I would encourage, and this is how we think about it, to build a newsletter as a business. Because at some point, if you build the largest newsletter or podcast media company, whatever you want to call it, this category, someone will probably want to buy it from you.
Ollie, one last question for you, and this is a question I ask everyone on the podcast. If you could go back in time to your younger entrepreneurial self and share 3 pieces of advice, 3 lessons or insights, what would it be?
Wow. Go back in time. Wow, good question. I should have started the newsletter sooner, would be number one. I thought about it for just, even if it was for a few months, I should have just launched it like as soon as possible. I wish we created a better brand identity earlier on. But again, like when we're building, you're not too sure like where this is going to go. So I would say like we started creating a pretty strong brand identity 9-10 months in. That's when we started to say, okay, these are our brand colors, this is our brand identity, this is who we are, and so on. And then the third is I would just keep looking for new opportunities on how we can expand and how we can, build like just the most amazing brand that hopefully everybody loves.
Awesome. Where should people go if they want to learn more about you and your work?
Hey, yeah, come and be a subscriber, neweconomies.co, and we'd love to have you as a subscriber.
Yeah, we'll link to that in the show notes so people can check it out. Ollie, I really want to thank you for sharing all your insights here with us today. It's been super valuable, man.
I've loved it. Thank you so much. And anyone who is listening, just start. Turn on those paid subscribers. Go and get hundreds and thousands of free subscribers. And if we can help you, feel free to reach out to me. Can't wait to see everyone.